Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview. Now, this summit has been absolutely super exciting for me. Those of you who are watching, let me know in the comments how exciting it has been for you. What has been your biggest breakthrough moments? Which speaker has really stood out for you? What topics really hit home to you? Because, this particular summit is about finding ways to move you forward in your health, wealth, and relationship. So I'm Letitia Campbell, guys. I'm your host. I have an amazing special guest. Her name is Sannie, okay? And she's going to be hopping on in just a second. She's a phenomenal young lady. She actually has been a client of mine for quite a few years now. So I'm so excited to have her on this summit. This is actually her first time doing one of my virtual events. It won't be the last one, right? It is the first one, but it definitely won't be the last. Okay. So without further ado, let me bring on my girl. How you doing, love?
Hey, how are you?
Y'all, I'm gonna say this again. I have the best looking clients in the world. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, look at her, y'all. Look at her.
Thank you.
So as I said before, thank you so much for being a part of the summit. Financial literacy is something that I advocate for, that I literally enjoy having people who know what they're talking about get on my summits. I actually saw a video earlier this morning. I shared it in our client group where a mom actually gifted for her son's graduation. I don't know if you got a chance to see it this morning, but she gifted her son like 3 houses, a whole bunch of, CD accounts and things like that. And the boy is only 18. I was looking at that, I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? That is the gift of all gifts. That generational wealth is so freaking real. And I know that you're an advocate of that. Definitely what you do is more of the setting up, which is the foundation of what everyone's needs. But before we get started with these questions, let everybody know who you are and what you do, love.
So my name is Sannie Lubin, and I'm a life insurance agent. I'm an agency builder, and I am working here out of New York. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I've been doing this now for the last 3 years. So pretty excited to be able to help more people learn about money. It's just a passion of mine to just educate people in the community about money and finance.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. I live in New York too, honey, and these prices are just woo, supermarket, Uber. I mean, you name it, everything is freaking going up. So more than anything, definitely you servicing the community over here, which is phenomenal. So it brings me to this first question is, what are some of the generational repercussions of not being financially literate?
Wow, that's a big one. I would definitely say, just looking at today where we are, everything you just mentioned, inflation, right? So what happens with that is over time, people just keep making the same mistakes. So we get to a point like where we are right now, and people aren't able to make ends meet because inflation has hit. And who thought we'd be paying $4 and $5 for a gallon of gas, so if you're not financially prepared to deal with those situations, of course, people just get, left behind, because that's how the bankruptcies start. That's how they go into further debt. Credit card debt is huge.
Oh my God.
And these are some of the issues that we see year after year, generation after generation. People just keep making the same exact mistakes and not able to get ahead.
I wrote down financially prepared, which is a point that you just mentioned. And what I have to really piggyback off of you is that we always are told to set up an emergency fund. Most of us can do that. Some of us can't, I'm sorry. But another thing that we don't really plan for, which I know is something that you definitely dive into, is, like you just said, when those spikes go up in groceries and gas, and when our living expenses comes up, it takes us away of all the most important essential investments or things that we need to be diving our money into. So we got to definitely be super duper literate about financial literacy, because again, there is a price to pay. Repercussions happen when we're not financially literate. So why do you feel there is such a lack of financial education amongst families? Now, I'm going to say this right now. Here in New York, when the weather gets nice, you see everybody in a nice cars, wearing the nice clothes, especially in my neighborhood. It's like like keeping up with the Joneses in a sense. Everybody's flashy. And you see the Range Rovers outside, but the person's living in the basement. And I'm just like, what is going on, right?
You hit the nail right on the head.
Yes. I'm sorry. No, I don't want to call nobody out, but I'm just saying it's foolishness over here. Go ahead.
This is actually like, that's like one of the biggest issues is, people have this lack of financial education. And with that, they just continue to make those mistakes. And those things that you said, every summer they're ready, they're dressed to the nines, they're afraid of not being, keeping up with the appearances. And so they spend all their money on, what it looks like. In the meantime, their banks are bankrupt,
That's right. That's right. They're
and
not thinking long term.
It's a big problem. And just really just not understanding how to save for a rainy day, but also how to make more money, right? So that they can continue to survive through these challenges of, where we are today.
That's right. And getting that preparedness is so important. And sometimes even God works on me. He'd be like, no, you're not getting your nails done for the next 3 months. You're not getting your hair done. I want you to really pour what you're making over here. And that's hard for sometimes when people are, they get money and they want to spend it so fast, which is the era that we've sort of been in for many years. But yeah, we got to shape up, So my next question for you is, what is keeping families from getting started? Because I know a lot of times when you have been practicing poor financial habits, you're first embarrassed. There's a lot of shame on that, but there's no solution in the shame. There's no solution when you feel shame. Can't focus on what happened in the past. So how can somebody just get started? Like, what's the first step?
Talk to a financial advisor, talk to an insurance agent, just talk to someone who is knowledgeable about the things that you are not. That's the biggest thing. Most people are just they don't have the information, and then there's a fear or a discomfort of what's going to happen when I talk to this person, or what's going to happen when I get this information. And so the challenge is when people don't make that next step by just making all just sitting on an appointment. These are most of the time you can sit down with someone. It's completely free just to take a look at what's happening. And so it just makes sense to do that. But because so many people have that fear, or they just don't want to get uncomfortable with where they're at, that they don't take that step. They also think they already have it in their mind. It's going to be so expensive. It's going to be something I can't afford. And because of it, they don't make that first step. It's just sitting down with somebody, get the information that's going to help you make better decisions moving forward.
I remember when this was probably like 8-9 years ago, my husband and I have been together for 20 years, and we actually sat down with a financial agent. And let me tell you, a lot of times you don't know how your partner's spending is until y'all sit down and you get to actually see everything. And it's almost like that person's pointing a mirror in front of you. You can't blame, oh my God, my parents did this, they didn't teach me that. Now that you're an adult, right? It's like it's your fault. You gotta fix it. You gotta change it. All of you. Yeah. So I'm glad that you led this audience on how to get started with that. So those of you who are watching, if you have like shame about that, there's no solution in the shame, right? My next question for you is, what is the benefits of being financially literate? Once you reach that point where, because I feel like financial literacy is not the same for everyone. It's very unique. It depends on the size of your family. It depends on where you're at in life. It depends on where you want to be in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It depends on where you live, even where you want to live eventually, how you want to live when you officially retire, right? Because there's some cultures where, they culturally they live with the children, but that's not in my culture, honey. I don't want my parents live with me, but and I don't want to live with my kids. Okay. When I get old and wrinkly and can't remember anything, I want to be in my own space. But it's so unique. So what is the benefits once somebody reached that financial literate point? What is the benefits of being financially literate?
Well, of course, it's just making better decisions. Right? Because that's what it comes down to. Having that information, that knowledge, it allows you to make better decisions. It allows you to plan for your future in such a way that you're not just planning for yourself, you're planning for generations.
Amen.
And so that's really what it comes down to. A lot of times people think of it like just what they can do for themselves today. But when you make the step to really become financially literate and also pass on that literacy to your family, it makes a huge impact for generations. You're not just stopping at today, I'm going to pay my bill on time so my credit can go up. I'm actually going to take the time to pay this off so that I can now be putting money away for something in the future that my children and children's children can now, have something to hold on to it. and have a step up, right? A leg up.
That's
Because a
right.
lot of times that's where our communities go wrong,
Yes.
is we're constantly paying for the mistakes of the past that we're not
Absolutely.
able to get ahead and bring our children forward.
And we're
So
playing catch up all the time, like cat and mouse.
absolutely.
And that's not
Yeah.
a comfortable experience, right?
Yeah.
I also wrote down, which brings me to my next question. What I find for most women in your industry is that they got into it, through their own personal journey. They went through a experience or a long journey of first starting out not on the positive foot, and then eventually fixing up, their financial, pipeline, and then now bringing in other, families, women, who, what have you, into this world of financial literacy. So, talk a little bit about how you improved your financial journey these past few years.
Absolutely. I mean, I have considered myself a pretty financially savvy person for a very long time, even prior to coming into financial services, but there was still things I didn't know. And so this information that I learned and things that I'm learning even now, it's been amazing, because it's really given me an opportunity to be very intentional about how I want to see my legacy. Not, like I said, not just about what I'm doing here today, but what's going to be left for our children and our grandchildren and great grandchildren. And how is the Lubin-Holder name going to be, remembered, and so I would say for me, just being a part of this industry, it's given me the opportunity to really look very, the future lens, and be able to just look back as well, because a lot of times we will set everything and forget it, and not really look and see where are we financially, what the things that we did last year and the year before, where are we today because of those decisions. And so a lot of times people aren't going and looking at their 401ks. They don't know what their accounts look like until they sit down with somebody. And even after they sit down, they're like, I still don't really know what this means.
They don't understand everything. Right.
I think for me personally, I got more in tune with what is actually happening in my accounts. Kind of going back and always looking to see, like, where was I last year? Where am I this year? Is this the track that I'm trying to be on? And just being more mindful of that, because a lot of times we just leave things for, oh, I set it up. That's all I needed to do.
That's all you need to do. Yeah. All I need is, I'm glad you mentioned that 401k, because a lot of times we think, oh, we need is a 401k. But when I was working in corporate, I was looking at my 401k, and I think at the time I was going to get, like, when I retired, about $1,300 a month. I was like, I can't even get a 1-bedroom apartment in New York for $1,300 a month. So it's like, you do need other components. I know I obviously increases through that compound effect, but still, I'm like, oh, how far is it going to increase? It's only increasing a couple of coins per year. You know what I mean? It's not that high. So I'm glad that you talked about that and bringing up that point of, no matter where you're starting from, you do have that personal connection with everyone who you talk to. I know sometimes when you and I message each other, you're like, hey, I'm about to meet with a client and stuff, like, you are booked and busy. And I love that. So make sure you guys connect with her after her presentation. She's definitely going to get you going. So talking about your presentation, can you just let everybody know what your presentation is going to be all about?
So I'll be talking about some of the basic concepts that we go over when I sit down with families. I'm not going to give you all the tea, but I will definitely give you all something to, to some meaty stuff, stuff for people to really get into. So specifically, we'll be going over the 3 ways money grows, which is a very basic concept that we educate our families on. And I think it's a really good stepping stone for people to just get the idea of, like, okay, how should I grow my money, or where am I growing it now, and how do I want to diversify? And so it's a basic concept that I go over, and I would like to go over that in our presentation. And then also I'll be highlighting some of the benefits, of course, of life insurance, the types of life insurance that exist, as well as how we can use life insurance for supplementing retirement. And in some cases, it is the full retirement. So depending on who we're talking to, so just going over some of those concepts that people may not all be familiar with. And so I think that'll be a great way to start and get your community up to speed about what we're doing here.
I love that. I love that so much. So y'all definitely want to make sure that you keep an eye out in your email, because I will be sending out an email of when her presentation goes live. You guys are definitely going to enjoy it. Make sure you have that pen and paper out, because you guys are going to learn a lot from this woman. She's phenomenal, right? Plus, she's from New York, just like me, honey. All right. So thank you so much for being on. Like I said earlier, I so appreciate you being part of this summit. You're going to educate a lot of people, and I'm so excited to see it happen.
Awesome. I can't wait. Thank
All
you for
right,
having me.
y'all. You're welcome. All right, guys. So we're going to end this, and we will see you on her presentation. Bye, y'all.